Hey, hey, hey. I hope you guys enjoy these, what I'm calling podcast shorts for my Burnout to All Out community. This is just a little peek behind the curtain of the coaching that goes on inside of my programs. We're bringing to you some of the best nuggets and coaching I'm giving within hot seats of all of our different programs, whether it's our LinkedIn Method Academy, our mini mastermind business basics, all the way up to our higher level mastermind. If you're hearing some of these questions and you're like, man, I wish I could get my burning question answered by Melissa. Hey, guess what? You could be featured on my podcast. If you've got a question that you want answered and you submit it to my team and we pick it, we will bring you here to the podcast for our podcast shorts and do a hot seat with you. Where can you submit your questions? Send them to teamburnouttooallout.co. We'll make sure we drop that in the show notes for our podcast shorts. And I hope that you guys find as much value in these shorts as our clients do inside the program. Need some effective tactical advice that actually helps you get results and makes a real difference in your life and business? You've come to the right place. If you're finding yourself here today, it means you're getting ready to gain serious traction in your business, rapidly multiply your income and impact, and you're ready to make it happen while living all out. Guys, I'm Melissa Hinault, your trustworthy corporate dropout turned six-figure business burnout turned happy and healthy CEO of a multi-million-dollar online business. And you're listening to the Burnout to All Out podcast. On this show, we're serving up innovative growth strategies, simple implementation methods to put them into practice, and action-stimulating inspiration tailored specifically for the modern entrepreneur. Let's dive in. I'm starting with Marla. So we'll let you go first, my friend.
Yeah, my question was about connection. So I've been doing a lot of taking people into Zoom and meeting them and things like that. And we've talked both the Burnout to All Out group and folks that I'm meeting on LinkedIn. And my big question is like, how do I vet if this person is for real? How do I know? Because in the virtual environment, I could make a whole website. I could say a bunch of things and then not have the actual authority. That's kind of the downside of meeting someone in real life versus online. I'm thinking like brainstorming with folks. And then I'm like, in the end, I get offline and I sit back and I go, well, I don't know. How do I know? So thoughts on that?
So it sounds like you're doing kind of a quality check on the connections, or is this like a quality check on people that you'd consider doing business with, or what are you sifting them out for?
Two things. One, the group of people that are all in this room that somehow we could collaborate on bringing a greater audience together through a mutual LinkedIn Live or LinkedIn audio or some kind of newsletter or article or something like that, like sharing. How do you say to someone, I don't know how good you are because I don't want it to happen. And then all of a sudden my audience is, okay, what was that about? Do you know what I mean? And so there's that group. And then the second one is I'm really aiming for partnership, like who is going to give us lots of leads, other workplace wellness consultants or other people who deliver wellness services through, and who can give us like share networks essentially. And so I don't know their authority. I don't know the best way to vet it. And I also don't know how the best way to say it tactfully because I think about it and then I'm like, that's not a very tactful way to think about it. How do I even say it in a way?
Yeah. So let's start with vetting out folks to put in front of your own audience. I'm a big fan of experiencing that person before I'm going to risk putting them in front of my audience. For instance, inside this community, you will never get a guest speaker that I have not experienced myself. And same thing for my podcast. I'm just entering into two new masterminds. And it can be really easy when we all first meet to be like, oh, let's like podcast swap. And I'm that asshole that like waits a couple months because I like want to get to know the people in the group first and kind of really get to know their products and services. Because in the past, I've just like rapid action given out my like link to book for podcasts with people in my mastermind that I'm in. And then you get a couple that just aren't great on screen and don't interview well. And you feel bad being like, well, I'm not going to produce that one. So even when you're sorting out the audience here in the Burnout to All Out community, what I would do is ask for some resources where you can experience them. So whether it's a podcast interview, one of the things I would do when I was getting started like you guys is one of the best things you can do is get yourself as a guest on some people's podcasts where you're being asked questions and you're coming across as the authority so people can see how you perform in a Q&A scenario and how well your content, because websites are two-dimensional. So I ask for resources, right? That's one of the best things you can do is get a podcast episode if they've been a guest. Do they have a book? Ask them what their best resource is where you can experience them. That's the word I like to use. It's like, how can I experience you before I put you in front of my audience? The other thing is, do they have a speaker sheet? All of you guys should create a speaker sheet, right? Like, what are the key topics you could speak on? Where have you been featured, and or how many lives have you touched? I have a speaker sheet that talks about 60,000 students have gone through my free masterclass. X number of students have gone through my coaching programs. And then I have direct links for certain podcasts that I've been on. And to really help each other out, give them the topics you want to be interviewed on so that you know you'll perform well for them. If you feel like you're screaming into the void when you post content on Facebook or Instagram, struggling to find a sustainable and scalable lead generation process that sticks, and you just want someone who's been there and done that to reveal their secrets, then it's critical that you register to save your spot ASAP. During this live masterclass, you'll get to steal the exact strategy I used to scale my income from $0 to $1 million in just 19 months without spending a fortune on ads or suffering from burnout. Simply check out the show notes of the podcast episode for the link to register for your free spot in the LinkedIn Lead Gen Masterclass. And don't worry, even if you miss a couple of days or you can't make it to all the training sessions, we'll deliver the replays directly into your inbox daily so you can watch them on your own time. All you have to do is make sure you sign up for the masterclass before registration ends. I don't know if any of you guys know Lori Harder, but I'm going to be on her podcast on Monday in her studio. And they ask, what are the questions you want us to ask you? So you can make sure they shine their best in front of your audience by asking them what they want you to ask that they know really well. Right? So that's another way to make sure they perform well in front of your audience. So that's the first thing. And then as far as collabs, I don't know that there's a scenario where it's a bad scenario that someone shares you with their network, whether they have a big network or a smaller network. I think when you're first getting started in that scenario, every crumb is a meal. Wherever you can get me in front of your audience, even if it's a small audience, is better than no audience and just your audience, right? So the more you can collab with each other's networks early on, the more you're going to be able to grow your network. Ideally, you want to align with people who have overlapping ideal clients. But early on, I would be networking with and collaborating where you can, where there's overlapping networks, even if they're not big. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I had this discussion with someone. So my network is larger. It's like 1,500. I didn't just get started with LinkedIn with this course. And hers, she's growing. And I was thinking, like, we were like, how are we going to make this work? And so we were thinking about doing 2 LinkedIn lives, like one where I interviewed her and one where she interviewed me, because we thought, okay, well, there has to be one call to action at the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if it's too collaborative, then it would be like, go to Marla's site and do this, and then go to her site and do this. And so the brainstorm we came up with was interviewing each other for one call to action at the end. If I was interviewing her, go, you're starting this new class happening in October. Everyone go sign up. So what do you think about that? Like doing 2 of them?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And then you get extra content. So I think that's a great idea if you've got the time, right? The flip side of that is like what Chris and Lori just did. I interviewed them from stage and they turned it into a podcast episode called He Said, She Said. And then she'll produce it on her podcast. He'll produce it on his. And then the intros and outros are just brand specific for their businesses. You could do a LinkedIn Live, and this depends on if you want to do a little bit of editing, not to get too technical, but if you didn't want to have to double interview, like do 2 separate ones, you could do one and then record your own little intro to it in your own little outro, like call to action, and just patch it in and then rerun it through LinkedIn Live as if it's live. All you have to do is push it through a broadcaster. Yeah. Then you're not having to sit for 2 hours and you've just sat for one, but the call to action at the end and the intro is just slightly different.
I did talk with someone who does LinkedIn Lives regularly, and they were like, oh, we just pre-record them. We broadcast them like they're live, and then we put them on YouTube directly after. Yeah. I was like, oh, that's an interesting way of doing it because my life's very crazy and things get canceled sometimes.
Yeah, we do that all the time. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys, so much for listening in on today's podcast episode. And I can't wait for you to see my upcoming guest in the next episode. You are going to love this keynote speaker. Hey, here's the deal. If you liked this, please subscribe and leave a review. And you want the latest online business growth strategies and exclusive LinkedIn pro tips sent straight to your phone? Text the word update to 704-318-2285. That is, text the word update to 704-318-2285. Can't wait to see you guys. Come find me over on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever you like to hang. Cannot wait to hear how you are enjoying and applying what you're learning. You guys reach out to me over on social because I love hearing what's resonating with you. When you reach out to me and you send me those personal DMs, they really do impact the content I continue to bring forward to you. So again, come find me, Melissa_Hinault over on Instagram, Melissa Hinault over on LinkedIn and Facebook. Can't wait to see you guys over there.